Okay, so we're ready to get started with Hobbes. And here's what you need to know about Hobbes. Um, Hobbes is a political philosopher, first and foremost. You're going to get a lot of your background information from your book. But the Leviathan is probably one of the greatest, and if you take a look online, you can see there's actually a lecturer from Yale who talks about the Leviathan as one of the greatest political works in philosophy that we have. It's very similar to Plato's Republic. Plato's Republic is a defense. He wants a theory of the state, and you'll notice that in Plato and in Hobbes, they really like the idea of the authoritarian kind of government. Plato's a bit different because he thinks that the philosopher is going to be the king. Hobbes thinks that you need to have somebody who will crush those who don't play along. He's going to base his theory on an analysis of human nature. So, like Plato and like Aristotle, he's going to begin with the assumption that in order to know how to organize a social and political, we need to understand the psychological concepts of human beings. So this is going to include your motives, the relation between reason and desire, etc. This lecture is actually going to go along with a PowerPoint slide that I have included for you. The difference between Plato and Hobbes is that Plato is describing an ideal we may not realize. Hobbes' main concern is to stop the violence and to guarantee peace and stability, and so he wants this to be preached from every political office, from every government office, from every church, from every pulpit, from you name it. He wants to persuade you, and he's going to be using persuasion in here to get you to go along with what he has to say about stopping the violence. He grows up in a very interesting time where things are incredibly violent. So the first thing he's going to do, like Bacon, because he is a secretary to Bacon, he's going to reject Aristotle. He doesn't like Aristotle. And he does not believe that we are naturally social or political creatures. Instead, if we were left in the state of nature, where there's no sovereign or common power to rule over, we will live in an unstable and violent condition that will not guarantee peace or stability at all. And it would be a war of all against all. So I put a candy bar up and I let everybody go, and immediately you'd all be killing each other to get the candy bar. And this is based on Hobbes' experience and actually proves to be a very good observation of what we see. The only problem when we use these observations is that we don't get to see everything, and that was really the problem that Bacon has, is that we don't see everything. And most ethical or psychological theories, and psychological theories in particular, are talking about what is and what is the natural constitution of a person. And he's actually proclaiming that this is not only a psychological doctrine, but also an ethical doctrine, and what ought to be the case. And so the basis for his theory, or for a lot of his theories, is experience and persuasion. We've already talked about a lot of that. So the central idea of the Leviathan is to stop the violence. So if we have these people in the state of nature, how are we going to get them to stop being violent in this war of all against all? He believes, you must have a power that is sovereign, it's absolute, and it is undivided. And Hobbes is going to see that that political power, not like ours, because ours is completely divided. So he's going to see it as a monarchy. So I'm sure this looks like fun with an absolute rule, but he's going to say that all of us are self-interested. And so in recognizing that we want something for ourselves, we're going to have to recognize that we need somebody to rule over us in order for us to get that. And Rawls will kind of look at this as well and say, when he talks about distribution, he will say that clearly we are self-interested. So think about a kid who gets a peanut butter sandwich. When you ask them to divide it, if you don't give them any rules, they're going to cut it and take the biggest piece. But if you say you cut it and the other person gets to decide, then it's interesting how that piece is going to be cut almost perfectly in half. And that's kind of that idea that somebody will keep us in line and keep us in check. And it's not out of the question. I mean, this is kind of what we observe. But be careful when that's what we're observing, because there are cases where people actually do nice things for other people just because they want to do nice things for other people. And don't be confused that just because I feel good now it negates the fact that I did something purely for someone else. It's a calculation, this really calculating piece of me that I'm always calculating what's in my best interest, and I always know what's in my best interest no matter what. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and we'll continue on.